It's great. It's a beautiful thing. What's this? All right, well, let's fix that right now. So let's keep going here. Okay. Show this one. Slow motion. Welcome to 216 The Net, and this is
Two Wild Guys and
absolutely. This show is designed to bring people into the fullness of who they are so they can accomplish what they've been called to accomplish. Truly, we are three normal guys who want to help people change. We don't even know they need change. We are subject matter experts of our own life. I suppose you guys are too. Perfect. Stick around for some fun, some edutainment, perhaps learn a thing or two before this episode is over. Today,
what are we talking about today?
getting below the frost line. Interesting. Let me see if I can fade that out. Welcome in, guys. Great week, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a lot of fun this weekend with our family.
Yeah.
Together. They got the little ones around. They keep you young and they aggravate you a little bit.
True. A little bit, but that's okay. How about you, Mike? Good week?
Yeah, so far so good. Got my Starbucks here. I go to visit the Starbucks daily over there, so that's my favorite stop.
Step in there and say, hey, how's life? Yep. It's good. It's a beautiful thing. My week flew by. It absolutely crazy flew by. But just a good stuff. You know, last episode we had Dr. Breakthrough on, which is
less
great.
to be stressed.
Less to be stressed to save to be paid. I don't know. Jen, how are you? Great having you. Are your mics on? I hope so. Yeah.
Testing 1, 2.
Is it working now? All right. Hopefully. Woo-hoo. Let us know. You sound far away. I'll go and adjust that. But we talked about the gurus, and we talked about why they don't work. So you guys discuss that. I'll go fix the mics.
You know, I think what we've came to the conclusion of why the self-help gurus don't work has nothing to do with the guru themselves. They put a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of effort into their package or product, but it comes down to the individual. You know, so many times, what is that commercial that has the easy button? You know, people want to hit the easy button. I bought the book, I read it, nothing changed. Right? I went to the presentation, I sat in the audience, and nothing changed. Well, you've got to take the information and you've got to apply it. You know, if you look at the self-help gurus you've followed over the years, who's one of them that you can point out and say, well, that was really good, but I didn't do anything with it?
Yeah, Tony Robbins. One of the first ones to see that.
Sure. I mean,
A lot of good information. But, you know, and that was one of the things I liked that Dr. Breakthrough brought up last week, was that, you know, a lot of times it's about those little nuggets that stack up over time that come from a lot of different places. And that's kind of how it was for me. There was never one person that I clung to that changed my life. Specifically, it was all these, you know, variations of things that came from different people. So, yeah.
Again, here's the wonderful thing. Says I literally have the mouse in my hand. I didn't have to leave it to the table to do what I just did. I could have done it all just sitting there.
Is that better? Those of you who are out there.
That should be better. Yeah, you know, it's always fun, you know, when you're live doing a live show. It's great. You know, here's what I was thinking about with why gurus don't work, and I listened to that a couple times, and I tried to press Dr. Breakthrough a couple times from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the interesting thing is this. The interesting thing is I think they don't work because we don't allow, well, two reasons. One is we don't allow it to get deep inside of us, to get guttural, right? And what we're talking about today is getting below the frost line, to get in there and get low below the frost line. The other thing is nobody ever gives you a time frame. So, hey, man, a change, breakthrough happens in an instant. Yeah, You know, Tony Robbins, everything happens like that. Change your life. And I think we go to these gurus, and we walk out there that weekend thinking we're born again. You know, because when you accept Christ, when you're born again, pow! It's like changes your life. You go to these gurus and you want your laziness, you want your bad eating habits, you want years and years of habits to be gone. And it doesn't happen.
Let's lay hands on our brother. Let's put him down.
Right. So I think I think that it doesn't work because of that, and that's why we wanted to talk about getting under that frost line. Right. If you're going to build a house, you got to get your footings, and you can check out the Dream Home Experts on Friday. Brand new show coming up Friday at 8 p.m. But you have to find that you got to put those footings down below the frost line so that your house doesn't heave, crack, or move. And the things that we practice, a lot of the habits in our life, we've done for so long that they get down into that, underneath that frost line, and we don't even know a lot of times that it's happening. Right.
Right.
So how does that relate to a human being? Where is their frost line? I mean, is it like here, or is it here? And you're, Mike, that's one of the reasons that we love you so much, is this is kind of your area to dive into. So what are your thoughts on where is the frost line and how do we get below it?
Right.
Frost line is where the shit begins. So when you smell the shit, that's where that's
right.
That's where the frost line begins.
Yeah, the nasty stuff.
That's
right.
the nasty stuff, right? The place that nobody wants to go.
Right. Which is cool. So that's it. Lighting is our friend. Right. Yep, we've got some new lighting, so it's a beautiful thing here. So what do you mean by that? It's where all the yuck and stank and stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the parts of ourselves that usually, I mean, it's the stuff that we don't want to, recognize or face. Maybe the stuff that we tried to cover up. A lot of the things that I experience with those, with the gurus and the, the self-help people, and I've read a lot of that stuff, and a lot of it has helped me. But it's taken so much time because regardless of how many times you tell yourself all these things in a positive attitude and you do this stuff, unless you're really willing to face a lot of that, that stuff about your own, insecurities and your shame and, the things that you feel that you're failure at and all this stuff. I mean, it doesn't really get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've created a wheel, right?
Yes, I've created
to help people.
He's made the wheel.
Right. To help people understand and help people make change when they don't necessarily know that they need to change. Explain to me what that is, or explain to our listeners what that is, and what part of that is, below the frost line. Where is it?
So the way that this came about, because I'll make it so that I didn't in creating this, all I did was I took from a few different books, and there were things that talk about the different areas of life. Right. And so there's different parts of your life that you're trying to tend to, whether that's, financial or social,
Yeah.
Your mental. So there's these different areas. And so for me, I spent a lot of time being just confused about all this stuff, about where I'm, supposed to be putting my time, what I'm supposed to be doing, and you read all these different books. And that's one of the other things too, that every guru has a different, kind of angle of attack and, kind of where you're supposed to go in your life and what you're supposed to do. So eventually it gets really confusing. Like, what the hell am I supposed to, go with all this stuff? So because I'm a visual person, I made
Please silence all cell phones.
Busy guy.
I made this circle just for myself, is to be able to see and recognize and to visually understand my life and what I'm doing in each area of my life, what activities I'm doing and how these kind of relate to each other. And so that began to help me over time to see when I'm doing something, or when I'm performing an activity, or when I go to, how it's, what area it's going into, and, how it's affecting the rest of my life.
I gotta take this. Keep talking amongst yourselves.
All right. He is so important. It's fun to be in a room with important people.
Yeah. Right.
And I guess that's one way we could go. A lot of people, they build their own self-importance,
Mhm.
but below that line, I mean, we've all had managers who have really terrible self-images, and to cover it up, they yell and they scream and
Right.
they overplan and overorganize. And when you actually get to know them, you find out there's some pain in their life that they haven't dealt with. I mean, I've been through that several times. I don't know if across, you work out with, you have several clients,
Mhm.
correct? And you don't just physically work them out. You get into the stuff. What are some things over the years that you found out that was below the frost line that you could help them with, without sharing any names, without talking
Sure.
about Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
here, but how have you helped them get below the frost line and get back on track?
Well, it's funny because as much as I try to get them to shut up, they don't. They keep talking, and it usually it always ends up becoming a therapy session. So no, it's funny because when you're working out and you're doing that kind of stuff physically, you end up there's a connection that happens, right? And there's something that, like, you start to you begin to feel comfortable with each other, and sharing stuff. And so I can, if I can go back through almost every client I've had at some point, and it actually doesn't take long, but it goes into this, these very deep conversations about, about life, and about, the way I feel about, what I'm doing with my life, and, what I wish I would have done, or things that I want to be doing, and, all these changes. And so, I had a lot of time to, think about that kind of stuff and go, man, there are a ton of people that are like me, where, a lot of times I just thought, man, I'm messed up, or living in regret, or, whatever. But there's tons of people who I thought were very, successful doing their thing. And they're going, hey, I'm kind of wishing there was something different in my life.
Yeah. Jen says, and thanks, Jen, for chiming in. I think once we define what we want and feel ourselves as the person we want to be, that is the big step in allowing what we want to present ourselves. Fake it till you make it.
Well, one of the things I'd like to, go back to the original statement.
Yes.
She says, once we define what we want, I think the problem we're facing here is people, instead of defining what we want, we define what we think other people want in us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we get lost in trying to become someone we're not. And I think that's when we get down paths that, are all over the place. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one of the major ones that messes with our mind and our goal setting.
Yeah. So I think that, and we've talked about it a few episodes ago, is, what is a good why, and I say, hey, people don't know their why. You guys say, yeah, you know your why. I think what defines it, see, we're not quiet long enough. We're not still long enough to get down below the frost line, to understand that God created us and created our purpose before we were born. When we were born, we knew our purpose. We just are never still or quiet long enough to go, oh, right? So, I'm in my 50s. I'm just starting to understand what's in that soil of the soul, right? What is in what you say way down there in the yuck and the stink, and a lot of people will call that wisdom, right? Oh, you're a wise old man, right? But the fact of the matter is perhaps everything that I've been reading, we're putting my office together at home, and literally a bunch of books. I mean, over 100 personal development books, and how to lead and how to do this and that. And now it's just, I'm starting to be maybe still long enough to start to understand that it's been down. I maybe had enough of it that I've tamped it far enough down to get into under that frost line. If that makes sense.
One of the visuals you just kind of brought across, there's a show on it where when the ice forms up north, the semi trucks deliver all the product they can to this area where they're oil drilling or whatever, but it's ice on top of water, and below the water is danger,
Below the ice.
below the ice, the frozen water.
Frozen.
The frozen water is what I was talking about. Below the ice, it's just water. It's shocking. It's danger. And I think for a lot of us, we keep moving so fast that we're not going to break through the frost line. We're not going to get down into that danger area, because when we actually have to take a look at ourselves, I mean, we all have things that we're not going to like about ourselves. We're probably all got things we like about ourselves as well, but how do you get through it? I mean, I think that's the key. How do you break through that frost line to become who you're supposed to be?
And before we answer that question, Shayna asked, is journaling part of it? I think she's going back to what you were talking about with how your circle, your wheel.
Journaling sure could be. I mean, that helps me. That's something that I've just in the last probably 2 or 3 years have done a lot more of, and it has helped me incredibly. I was resistant to it for a long time because I don't like to write. And then once I start writing, there's a million things, and I'm like, shit, I've been doing this for 30 minutes. Right. And I'm tired of this. But yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Hey Lee, how are you? Welcome aboard, my friend. Yeah, self-reflection is important, Mike says. I think that's a big thing. But if you want to make change, if you want to change yourself, if you want to change a habit, if you want to change anything, you have to go back to that center, right? You and God, and you have to be still and go, all right, what did you create me for? Think about when you go back, Coach, you've got 933 grandchildren or something, and another one on the way.
12 is on the way.
Yeah, so 11. So when they're little and you watch them play, and then you're like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they have this crazy thing, right? Maybe you're so in tune when you're young that you know. And then I go, I don't know, little Timmy. I mean, there's not a lot of money in doing that. Maybe oh my gosh, maybe you don't, pandemic. Maybe you don't want to be a doctor. Whatever. And I think that we start living above the frost line and start allowing people to say, you that's not who you are. Let me tell you what you need, right? And I'll go back to as a kid, I can tell you verbatim every one of my parent-teacher conferences. Yeah, he's good. He doesn't really try his hardest, and he talks all the time and disturbs class. Detention. So they tried to stifle what I'm good at. Guess what I do now? I own an internet radio station. I talk for a living. Why wouldn't they say, you know what? This kid never shuts up. Put him on radio, put him in TV, do something. There's obviously a gift this kid has. Instead, you know what? Kent, shut your mouth, and we'll see you on Saturday. Attention. Right?
Check.
So we allow people to do that, right? Jen says the human race is constantly always looking to instantly improve upon what we've accomplished or achieved. That is our nature. Example, I got a fantastic new car. Within a year, we find ourselves saying, wouldn't it be cool if insert the upgrade? Yeah. And that's because I think we're playing above the frost line, right? I mean, literally, there are so many cool cars and things I would love to have, but I grew up with parents who are like, car gets you from A to B. As long as it runs and it heats up in the winter, you'll be fine. It didn't have to be a Mercedes. It didn't have to be a Cadillac, whatever, right?
My youngest son was 12, and we're driving down the road, and we passed one of the Indy pace cars. He's like, Dad, wouldn't you like to have one of those? I'm like, if I didn't have you three, I would have like 5 of those. But it's, it is who we are. And I understand what you're saying. But again, I think what we're trying to do is how do we get below the frost line? I mean, yeah, we're living above it. we can talk about that all. How do we get down there? How do we get deeper and real? It comes down to the R in wrap, the R in reboot, the R. It comes down to recognition. Until you recognize there's a problem, you can't fix it. Until you recognize what's below the frost line, you can't change it.
Right.
Maybe we should ask Mike. Mike is a master plumber. He's used to getting below the frost line and then where stuff stinks.
Master plumber.
Right? He's used to dealing with the smell and the yuck, right? And sometimes you just got to go in, right? Hold your breath and go. So it's a good question. So in your program, what do you tell people? How do you get them there?
You know, the beginning of it is the honest answer is there's no way to make somebody want something that they don't want. Right. I mean, so people like either have something, there's some kind of drive that makes them want something more, or they don't, you know, and it's the same thing as when I'm working out with people. There's some people that they're going to come back and they're going to, you know, face the, you know, the pain and the, you know, the routine of doing stuff. And then there's some people who fall out and I can't, you know, grab those people and tie them up and make them want to do something. So, you know, at the beginning of this going into it, just like anything, it's
Good morning, Gary.
There's something there that you want, or there's something there that you don't. There's no way to kind of force that.
Lisa, how are you? Of course, Lisa from Lisa's Changing Perceptions on Sunday here at 9 o'clock.
But getting them to recognize that you can't change them.
Right.
But again, I go back to how can you help someone recognize that there's a problem through discussion, through a mirror, through,
Right.
you know, whatever.
Put them in a wheelchair. Right? I mean, literally.
I hear you.
So a lot of times we don't get into the yuck and into below that frost line until it's thrown on us or we're thrown into the pit.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, we bury people 6 feet under. Why? Because it's below the frost line. Right? And until you get thrown in that pit, you never live below there.
Right.
So it's scary. And we don't like, you know, to have to admit that I'm scared of that. I don't want to go in there. Right. So how do you get somebody to that point to open that up? Well, you can go with people like Lisa, who you can do some hypnotherapy. You know, and stay tuned because she's going to have a program that she'll have out on the web as well. It's really cool. But you know, the idea is, you can't, Coach. I don't think you can. I don't think gurus can get you there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
You have to be so fed up with and tired of, or it has to be near death experience, you know, hey, if you don't change, you're gonna die.
Well, how many alcoholics have quit drinking when they got to that point?
Rock bottom.
How many,
Right.
you know, overweight, out of shape people,
Yeah.
You know, you've got heart disease, you got diabetes. Now we change.
Right.
So to flip the script just for a second, and I'll take my turn in a minute, but have you been below the frost line and what did you find?
For me personally, yeah, I have. I'm sure there's way more frost lines still to go. I think that's the point of it. It doesn't end the stuff that's below there. I mean, maybe
It's not like
some
an
people have found,
1/8
right. Yeah, maybe some
Right.
people have found everything that's underneath there, but and it still sucks. But there's still things that I continue looking at. You know, that I have to face about myself, or things that I'm fearing and all that stuff. But that's the only way I'm going to move forward.
I don't think he answered me. What's something that you found when you went below the frost line? And I'll give you an example with me. You know, with all my military experience and everything I've done, what I found when I went below the frost line is I'm really not as organized as I thought I was when I was in the military. Because I was surrounded by organized people, it kept me on task, on target. When I went into business for myself, I had to look in the mirror and there, you know, there's 3 guys, me, myself, and I, and those other 2 guys weren't listening very well.
Right.
And I found out I really struggled with organization.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get myself up, and I still struggle with it, but I know it's something that I put off for 21 years in the military because I just surrounded myself with organized people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of what Shayna's saying here. Sometimes I think it's important to have an inner circle that can call you out and keep things real.
Mm.
Many of us are using negative emotion as a drug of choice, right? And that's what the Army. I mean, that's what Weight Watchers does. I go to a meeting every week to have people hold me accountable that are struggling the same struggle I have. There are a lot of groups like that. However, there's a lot of people that sit in there to get a chip. Yeah, I was there. No, I've been sober. Yeah, and they're drunk at that point, right? I mean, we all know that. Jen says, or if you're in extreme physical pain, yeah, that pain or pleasure is really why we do
Almost everything.
pain, pleasure, or fear, right? And that's why we do what we do. And I don't know. Have I been? Yeah, man. I've lived several years below the frost line, right? And like I said, I think I keep digging. And what I have found is that I love myself, but I also want everybody else to be happy. I hate people being hurt. I hate people being sad. So I'll crack a joke at somebody's funeral because I don't think we should be crying, right? I'm uncomfortable with that. So I find that somewhere in my past, that down there was a lot of pain or scared of something. And so I don't like feeling it. So I don't want you to feel that. Right. So that's why I try to do what I do. That's also why I try to please people too many times and just go, you know what, the answer is no. Screw it.
Well, it's kind of like you get a hole, you reach down in and say, oh, here's one thing. I'll work on this thing for now. And then it's like, oh, now
I think our expectations, our expectations are so great, and we haven't even got the footings yet. We haven't gotten below the frost line, and our expectations are so great. That's why people fail all the time, right? I mean, literally, I am all over my kids all the time. They're like, Dad, you're a perfectionist. You want us to be perfect? No, I want you to do your best. There's two different things. That's two different things. But in society, if you own a business and you hit 65% of your goal for the year, that's a pretty good year. You're like, hey, we fell short, but that's a pretty good year. You're in public school and you get 65% on a test. That's a D.
D minus, right?
D minus, right? It's like, you failed, buddy. You suck.
Right.
So we're always chasing. We grow up in a society here in America, Gary. I don't know about Singapore, but here in America, it is where we grow up in a society where, hey, if you aren't at 100% or an A or a gold star, you suck, right? And there's just some of us who are like, well, I don't know. I don't really like this subject and don't really like the teacher. And it's not that I don't comprehend. It's just I don't like it. So F you.
Yeah. Well, Sean Acor says we have the formula messed up. He says, we think if we work harder, we'll find success. If we find success, we'll be happy. And then what we found out is that success is always moving, and it's always leaving us behind, and so we're never happy. And I think when we can get below the frost line, and we can, I would be happy if I could surround myself with organized people again. So I didn't, but instead I'm with you two. But if you can focus on finding that happiness, then the rest of it will fall into place. And I think when we're dealing with the fear of pain, we don't want any more pain. We're not going below the frost line because there's stuff down there I don't want to know about.
Yeah.
Because I'm already dealing with enough right now. Right. But when I can get down there, I can, start to fix and start to heal and move forward.
Right. Yes. Right.
Shaden says, Jen Krejci, absolutely extreme physical pain, such a motivator. That and fear helped me lose over 100 pounds and stave off a hip replacement. So far. Wow. And Gary says, it's the same with Asian countries like Singapore, Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. So yeah, so still kind of that, it is what it is. But in Singapore, the education system has been changing to move away from this mindset. I think that's wonderful, right? have you learned? You know,
Right.
and your learning capability in math may be far greater than mine, but your learning capability in music can be far greater than mine too. And my learning capability just sucks. So I'm just going to put it out there. Right now, I will be honest, and most people that are listening and being part of this, again, this show, we got three guys that are just passionate to try to bring some things to the surface. We are not licensed, or we're not gurus.
I have a driver's license.
Yeah, but these are years of experience and things that we've put together and content that we've put together to try to help people again accomplish the things that they've been called to accomplish. So there's some place in your life you're falling short. How do we quit falling short? Right. So as we look at it, you say that soil of the soul, that under the frost line, it's you and God. That's where the stink is, because God knows the stink, right? So when you get below the frost line, what do you do?
Is this a question for me? I was
Yeah.
hoping you guys.
That's why we're both. That's why we're both looking at you.
I mean, you take it in. You take it in. You take in what's there, and most of us. Okay, so most of the time, we think the bad things, the shit, is negative stuff.
Yeah.
But I think one of the hardest reworkings of the mind is to not see that stuff as bad once we've gotten past it, because just like shit, right? Fertilizer in a garden, that's what helps your garden grow. And that's the same thing as all the, the stuff, the garbage, the things that are inside that maybe we don't want to look at, but the things from the past or whatever, the things that hold us down, but those are the things that inevitably things grow out of.
Yeah.
And so that's a hard reworking of the mind, but that's one of the things to do, is to see stuff that way and change the mindset of it.
Are there any steps you can follow to get started down that path? Is there a 1, 2, 3 ABC? I can.
Nope. Start digging through the shit.
Right. Well, yeah. So take a look at any 12-step process or whatever, right? It works, it doesn't work, whatever you want to say. The first, I've got a problem. The first is really coming to grips with what it is that you want to change, right? I can't change my height. Get over it. I'm 5'10", right? I can't change my hair color, right? Get over it. It's white. Or none at all. It's a facial hair, right? We could mask it, right? I get it. I understand, folks. It is, yeah. I could put grease and formula in there or whatever, color it up, whatever. But my hair still, I can't change that root, right? So what is it that I want to change, right? I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better servant to God. Whatever it is. Now.
Were you thinking co-host?
Oh,
Yeah, I was.
Now I've got to sit there and go, why aren't I?
Yeah.
Right? You have to admit it and then go, why aren't I that right now?
Right.
Okay?
So you don't know your why.
That's what I say. Everybody does know their why, right? But it's in there. So hey, Romy, how are you, brother? Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, Coach, it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, not 5'10". That's right. So here's the deal. The deal is, the first step is stop lying to your damn self.
Amen.
And here's what I mean. My mind thinks I'm 18 in every aspect. We're playing basketball, whatever the case may be. My mind still goes, you got this, you young buck, right? And my body in the morning gets out of bed and goes, hell, you ain't 18, old man. You shouldn't be sore getting out of bed, but you are, right? So the idea of The idea of getting under there is you first got to stop lying to yourself. You have to stop lying to yourself. On It's Your Move, again, another great show here. It airs on Mondays at noon, new content, but every day at noon as well here on 216 The Net. You know, the only way to make change last is you have to start reading books. You have to start educating yourself.
That's good.
You can't do it on your own, right? Reading books, you're on the shoulders of giants at that point. And here's the beautiful thing: if you're reading a book, your mind can't separate if that's your thought or what you're reading. It hears your voice. So your mind thinks you're talking to yourself if you're reading a book on anything. So if I want to eat better, sure, I can tune into Living Low Sodium. Look at all these plugs we're giving, right? On 216 The Net on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Central. Or I can watch that and read about what a 50-year-old man's body acts like and the hormones and hey, you know, yep, you can have one Little Debbie's zebra cake, but guess what? That's going to sit on you for another 6 years. You know what I mean? So I think we don't, as a society, do enough reading. We don't do enough learning. Once you, what Coach, you know, once people get out of high school in America, what percentage of people read one complete book?
It's less than 2%.
Right.
Crazy.
For the rest of their life.
Yeah, but when you do the math, 330 million people, less than 2%, is still a lot of books sold in America.
Right.
But and there's you know, the third step, you talk about the first, to stop lying to yourself, to start educating yourself. I feel, and I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't feel this way, it's important to have a mentor or a coach in your life. You've got to have someone that's going to hold you accountable, because we are horrible at holding ourselves accountable. Des Clark had a post on LinkedIn this morning that talked about he hired a trainer. He said, you know, I was in the NFL, 35 years of working. I'm probably 10,000 workouts I've done. I know what to do, but I don't hold myself accountable. I need a trainer in my life. I need a coach or mentor.
I think that's good.
So what's step 4? That's dead air, fellas.
I mean, you know, a coach or mentor is only as good as you allow them to be.
You got to pick it.
Right. I can call Mike up and be like, hey, Mike, I'm going to take the next 3 months off. All right, whatever. It's your body, dumbass. Right. Right. But he may go, hey, bullshit. You know, come over, grab me by the, you know, the back of the shirt and drag my ass to the gym. Go, listen to me. I'm not going to give up on you. That's the type of mentor that you need.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't. This world is surrounded by yes men. Corporations are full of people who rose through the ranks because they agreed with the boss. You don't want to hire somebody. You don't want to get somebody mean. You know. You don't need a Mike Ditka out there training you, but you got to have somebody. You know. And I've watched you work. You know, I've watched you work out with Mike in the mornings at the gym, and that's kind of that perfect relationship. You know, the mentor is going to say, this is what you're going to do. The athlete who says, I really don't want to do this, but holding you accountable.
Yeah. So Jen says, here's my take on happiness, which could be interpreted as spiritual belief. Follow your excitement every moment that you can, to the best of your ability, with integrity and without having a specific expected outcome. It will lead you to the next step, like breadcrumbs. So what sounds the most exciting to you? I don't know.
Interesting.
It's really insightful.
Well, the breadcrumbs. I mean,
Jen, can you just have a show?
I've been, you know, on low carbs for so long. The breadcrumbs excite me. You know, just following the breadcrumbs. But you know, what excites me is being young enough to wrestle and play basketball and do things with my grandchildren, and keeping, you know, and you know, maybe not tip-top shape. I'm not beating them anymore, but at least
some of them
I'm playing with
3.
Well, that's the ones I can still beat. On your mark, get set.
Go, come on,
Actually,
go.
they beat me in a foot race now, but that's what excites you.
If I just followed what excited me, I'd be like 400 pounds surrounded by women. I'd be like Jabba the Hutt in that in that scene in Star Wars. If I just followed what excited me.
No, yeah, that's and if you manifest whatever you think about, most you become. Well,
At least she laughed with
yeah.
us.
be a giant dildo. LOL. It's supposed to be philosophy to help keep you above the line and out of pressure. Right. Well, and that's why I say, there's the old saying, you want step 4? If you're going through hell, don't stop. Keep
Amen.
on moving.
Keep on
We
going.
get stuck in depression and anxiety because when it gets tougher, we get down in that stink and that muck and yuck. We stop and go, well,
I'm
okay.
here.
Well, this sucks, right? Instead of fighting a way out. I mean, if you can get through hell fast enough, the devil don't even know you're there. Right?
Amen.
It can't affect you. So if you understand that, you can't lie to yourself and you have a mentor, you can't stay where you're at. And it may take you 20 years to get through it. It may take you a lifetime, but you got to keep moving.
Well, I think it was Jen or maybe Shana who said it earlier that you've got to have somebody who's going to be real with you, who's going to call you out. And that needs to be in the contract up front, right? I need you to tell me when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Don't say, okay, I worked out with Naaman Johnson for a long time. And when I get ready for the next exercise, he'd look at me and go, okay, coach, are you ready? And I'd say, no, will you stop asking me that? Just tell me to do it. Don't ask me if I'm ready or not, because I will lay here all night. I will take a nap. I will sleep right here on this bench if you wait till I'm ready. I need you to guide me, to pull me, to move me through, because I don't think any of us can go through the yuck by ourselves.
No.
I mean, no, it's tough, and you can't. But I think, hopefully, as we're on the back end of this show, hopefully, we get people to start thinking below the frost line and understanding if you want to create change in your life, the change that you want, the change that you deserve, the change that can motivate you and take you to that next level, to that next space on the game board, is you have to be willing to get down under that frost line.
Right.
You got to get in the shit, as you would say. Right.
Many times.
Many times. The thing that I would point out, because I made that joke about what Jen said, but in thinking about that, the thing that what I found personally and been finding more of is that most of the stuff that genuinely excites me is a lot of the stuff that's been embedded under the most fear. To do to seek after those things have been the things that I wouldn't want to do because I'm so afraid of in some sense or another, but to find that underneath those things are the excitement. So I think that's where it's kind of that dichotomy. And that's what is, that makes it so difficult and genuinely seeking after those things that I'm really interested and excited in, is because there's a lot of fear attached to a lot of that stuff.
And that's what, Dr. Breakthrough talked about that, right? Last week a lot as well, is, that success lies just on the other side of fear.
Right.
Right. But that's why I say people do things for pain or pleasure or fear, right? That's a fight or flight aspect of your brain.
Well, and that's a whole nother show, learning how to take control of that.
Yeah.
That's
Tune in. Lisa talked about that this past week, right? Which is good.
And speaking of last week, we talked about why don't gurus help. This week, we talked about getting below the frost line. Deke, where are we going next week?
What's your exchange rate?
My exchange rate.
Right. So while you're up under that frost, while you're stuck and in that yuck
and can't think of what to say.
I was trying to read I got six things blowing up my phone. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't a live caller. How much are you willing to give up? What exchange rate? What's your exchange rate? What are you willing to do to keep moving through that to get to the other side, to make that change? There's a price that we all have to pay. Some of us are willing to pay it. Some of us are not. Some of us don't know what it is. Right? Until, like Jen said, it's, extreme pain. It's death, life or death. Hey, I'm we all know the story about the rock climber who got pinned beneath the rock, and then he, took a pocket knife out and cut his own arm off.
Yeah.
Otherwise he would have died. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to cut your own arm off right now? Don't do that. We don't recommend that. Just saying.
Unless your life is in
You-
danger.
yeah, the bottom line is there's always an exchange rate, a price. What is your exchange rate? Where is it at? Of course, we've got just the last few seconds. And what does Shayna say?
Accountability to another is a human drive of sorts. I would start with taking stock of what is and where you want to go. If you need Mike Ditka, then it's what you need. It's rough if you don't line up with a coach's style.
That's right. That's right.
I agree with that.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. But but again, if it's to be, it's up to me, and that's and that's the bottom line, because Kent Jones said so. All right, hey, our time is short. We're right on the back end of it here. We can't thank you enough for joining.
Two bald guys and Mike. I know I have hair, but I do identify as a bald guy.
There it is. Until then, be good to yourself, be good to each other. Get down underneath that frost line and let us know what we can do. Romy, we'll get to your comment next week. But we are on the back end. Thanks, brother.